Wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Yeah, you right there, Mr. Postman. Hey, Mr. Postman, look at me. Is there a package just waiting for me? Where's my box? Where's my box? What's in the box?
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of What's in the Box. So this week it's going to be a little different. I'm actually going to be talking about It's a Living, Surviving as a Freelancer in the 21st Century, The Ultimate Guide to Success for Artists and Creative Professionals by Christian S. Alois. So, quick story behind this is Christine reached out to me asking if I would feature his book on the show. And I said, sure. And immediately, I think it was like 2 days and it got here. Sorry, that's my phone. And it came fast. And when I opened it, I didn't realize that it was his book. I thought it was going to be Big Boss. I thought it was one of his comics. It was actually his book, It's a Living. So I started going through my head. It's like, oh man, with all the stuff I have on my plate, how long is it going to take me to read this? Where do I fit it in? Because it'll take me 15 minutes to go through a comic book, but this is a novel. And so all that stuff that are going in my head, I said, all right, it's going to take me a couple weeks because I'm not a fast reader. And I have so many other things that I'm doing right now. So I look at it. I said, okay, here it is for freelancers looking to make their way in really an unpredictable field because the success is based on your input. So as you can see from this, there was a lot of things that I took note of, and we'll go through it. So what I love is, number one, I want to ask Christian the relevance behind the illustration he chose for the cover. I know he really focused on life drawing in his journey, and so this is an example of possibly a person that he illustrated during one of those life drawing classes. But then you open it up and he did this great illustration of Crazy from Catch the Crazies, which I actually love. And what's sad is that I didn't notice this until I opened the book a couple of days ago to start reading it. So it was a real pleasant surprise to see this. And let's see. So we're just going to open it up. You got that. So it's dedicated to believing in yourself, right? And then he has a quote from Michelangelo. If such a gift I truly have been given, and yet divided, torn, still burn and stray, it is to blame who fashioned me for fire. Michelangelo. So you have your table of contents and he goes through the chapters, right? So the importance of a strong foundation, adapt or you won't survive, live to work, don't work to live, branding and marketing, freelancing, online, dealing with clients, creating and selling fine art, in business for yourself, continuance equals success, and Apollo's Prisoner. Apollo's Prisoner was probably my favorite chapter. There's so much heart and relevance to, and so many things I can relate to when reading it. So I think the reason why it was personal is one of my favorite. I guess I related to it. So here's the introduction, and he goes through what most authors do is they just provide you an overview of the book. I highlighted this line. It's raw as I write from experience. There are no fake promises of anything unsustainable in these pages. I want you to have longevity and be happy doing what you love So I'm showing you what I've been through and the lessons I've learned, many by trial and error. That's all you can really do in life. Keep moving forward, as my father used to say in his working class Eastern European accent. You live and learn. I think that was the most powerful part of the introduction because it gives you an insight into him and his intention. And unfortunately, you're going to hear dogs in my background. That's the reality of working from home. And so it gave me a good insight into his thought process and his motivation for this book, which is why I highlighted that in the introduction phase. So unfortunately, some of the pages are coming out, so hopefully they don't all fall apart in front of me. But so the importance of a strong foundation is chapter 1, and I highlighted if someone from a good family can make poor decisions, there's no reason why someone from a harsh upbringing can't make wise choices and succeed. That is such a great statement for many reasons. Because I think we attribute success to those who have been given or born with the environment and circumstances to become successful. And when you come from an underprivileged background or an environment where the culture is basically you work to make a living, and it's, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a janitor, whether you're a construction worker, that's the way you make a living. And risk taking is frowned upon because it affects the purse and household income, and you have to put food on the table and light and heat. So I like this statement because it forces you to really take a hard look at your choices, no matter what stage in life you're in. So then I also highlighted having conned my way out of the 10 p.m. curfew by telling my dad. Yeah, this is a story I really like. That's why I highlighted it. By telling my dad I'd be sleeping over Bradley's place, who was seemingly a good kid. Bradley and I arrived at the party. We were anticipating the biggest party of the year. Surprise, it was empty, no girls, no nothing, just some dudes from school twiddling their thumbs in a sparsely finished basement of a housing project. One girl eventually showed up, and sure enough, the boys started fighting over her. I just gave up. We all sat around looking at each other, drinking and waiting for something fun to happen. They didn't even have video games or anything. We stayed up late at night. Then it was time to go to sleep. There was nowhere comfortable to sleep. Some were lucky to share the one pull-out sofa while Bradley laid on his jacket on the floor. Me, I was stuck with sleeping on my side on an old chest. Worst sleep of my life. The reason why I highlighted this because when you think about the title of the book, right? And I'm gonna go back to it, right? So, surviving as a freelancer in the 21st century. Then you ask yourself, what does this have to do with it? Because it helps you understand how you become the person you become. Because by highlighting his choice to want to have fun over work, he also recognizes that there were poor choices because he was putting energy in things that weren't going to help him grow. And it reminded me of the choices I made when I was a kid. So I was able to relate to it. And that's part of why some of these things that I highlighted were a lot centered around your personal growth, centered around just reality. And what makes this book appealing is that it has heart. And the heart comes from the shared stories in his life. And that's what I grew to appreciate. There was a point where he realized in his journey that he wanted to switch schools. I highlighted that part, right? because he told his dad he wanted to switch schools, for several reasons. Number one, he didn't like the fact that, and there was a lesson learned, that, he made a poor choice in judgment, and he had, by verbally accosting a teacher, and because of that, now he was being scrutinized in his behavior. He needed to get 5 out of 5 stars, right? And so he couldn't live with that, right? So he asked his father if he can switch schools, right? And so at Canterbury, I met some amazing people. It was a very creative environment and really opened up my mind. It was in the audition process where we had to draw a nude model as a test that I learned the importance of life drawing. Life drawing, sometimes called figure drawing, is about seeing objectively and displaying what you see in an attractive way. So there was a choice he made to act out irrationally, and then to escape having to deal with the consequences of his action, because there's cause and effect, by having to go to class and behave, and he knew that he wasn't that type of student. He found a way to get out, but it also, that choice also helped him. So the escape really opened his eyes to another world. Had that incident not happened, who knows what the choice he would have made. So I found that to be, again, you need to read the story, because it's there's a lot of great fundamentals to the choices we make and the significant impact it has on our life. Because everything, when I look at this book, and I have to summarize it, it all goes back to choices, right? And it all goes back to purpose. So I think choice, purpose, and sacrifice. 3 words to choose from. Those are the words I take out from this book. So here I think there's still the importance of a foundation. I highlighted this. I'm not recommending a year off from school. That's just what I did, right? And I wasn't guided about the value of a tertiary education. My father's only concern was the money, but I had a part-time job, and I could take out a small government loan for the rest if I needed it. And again, here's a choice he made to take a year off, which in hindsight, looking back, there were some things. So his choice, and you'll find out, and I'll highlight a lot of stuff here. You'll find out in his journey, some of these choices with education hurt him. And so he had to take the long road to get to where he is today, because of those choices. So I found that true to be really powerful as well. Here it says, but I studied painting in university, and I've been a professional artist for several years already. I make a living painting and selling artworks. I pleaded. That doesn't matter. We follow the books. No degree in what you want to teach. No right to teach. Here it is. He wanted to teach because he wasn't accredited. He wouldn't be given the opportunity to. And this is where he felt inadequate. And I highlighted, I felt inadequate. So he wound up taking the animation job, because that's what they were allowing him to do. And where he really wanted to teach the life art classes. And so what that forced him to do is later he found a private art school that gave him the opportunity to teach acrylic and oil painting to adults, and he managed to successfully offer adult painting classes at the Canterbury Community Center. But he never forgot that shutdown. Again, the choices he made, right? So then he had to take an extra step. So for every bad choice, remember, the choice at the moment seems legit to you. But if we take a hard look and weigh out the options, right? It's risk versus reward. And I'm not sure if he's done that. Obviously, he did not do that analysis at the time. It was more based on his judgment based on the environment that he was exposed to. And you'll learn about that with, when you understand the story of his father. And you'll see why some of that shaped him in the early ages. So I thought that was pretty cool. Chapter 2, it's adapt or you won't survive. So I highlighted this one line, this one sentence. Experience taught me to relax and adapt. Experience taught me to relax and adapt. When you're young, it's your way or no way. When you're young, it's yesterday. You want it yesterday because you don't have time. You don't want to put in the time. You want the reward now. You don't understand what adults are saying. So everything becomes gets placed into a box, right? We give titles to things because we don't want to accept that our way is not really the right way or not the best way to go about it. And I thought that was powerful. And then he follows up with, as long as you're living, you're winning. And you can take it into, again, it's like art is subjective. And I think it's the same thing. You have to really look in the mirror to understand what that means. Because if you're not in the moment, you're not enjoying the journey, you're not going to really truly understand the significance of that line. So I thought that was really cool. While this is a guide to surviving as a freelancer, what I love are the life lessons in this. Because, again, it goes back to the choices that you make. And that will determine the outcome, right? So here, I didn't even put a sticker there. I just found some highlights. Oh, here's some stuff. So I put pride and arrogance. So for about 4 months, I worked 3 jobs. All right, so his pride got in his way. And at times, his arrogance also got in his way. And here in this page, in page 28, he talks about he's been wanting to go work at this animation studio, but he destroyed that opportunity. Even though he was supported by his friends who were working there, his ego, his pride, and his arrogance stood in the way, and he learned a huge lesson from it. And he tells a story about when you work for a company, you're employed for the company. It's just typical. It's standard practice that you're always talking about your company and you're talking about your bosses and you throw under the bus. But when you don't work, as he did not, and he walked in and they're venting to him about the story and the production and whatever, and he says, yeah, I can do a better job than this piece of crap. He crossed that unwritten, unspoken line. You're not part of the team. Who are you to start throwing the team under the bus? And that hurt him because the producers overheard it. And they're like, we don't want that. That's a virus. Why would I want that virus on my team? So now he's forced to work all these jobs because his father says you got to work. Because he, on multiple occasions, he's wound up going back home and living with his dad. So here is a great example of the lack of humility prevented him from positioning himself in a better circumstance, which I thought that was pretty fascinating. The story goes on to tell, and I don't know if I highlighted it in the future, but let's see. If not, I'm just gonna spill the beans. Oh yeah, so he eventually winds up going to work for the animation studio, and after the first day, he walks away and says, "You know what? I'm just gonna go out after my life. I'm going to go and build my own empire and my own business and work for myself." So I thought that was also key. So he's been wanting to work for them. He hurt himself. He's trying to get back in it. They got him back in, and then he walks away from it. Takes a lot of courage. There go my dogs again. Sorry about that. Then here is Adapt or You Won't Survive on page 36. I just highlighted. I came to take the submissions. I replied, I'm going to take the... Oh, okay, so here's a lesson on negotiations and contracts. He meets this person who owns a gallery, the guy says, I'm going to help fund you to do an art book. They want, they go in business together on a handshake. So he does all this work, and he's promoting it, and he's, commissioning or recruiting other artists and poets and all this stuff into this big coffee table art book. And with a December release, and the guy, the financier, decides that he's going to wait up to the new year because he's not making enough money, and shuts him down. And that's when he realized, when you're at the mercy of somebody, number one, he didn't have a contract, and number two, he's at the mercy of somebody else, and he pulled the rug from it. And so he walks away. He decides to turn back and says, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. And he takes all of the submissions from all the other artists and the poets, and he decides he's going to do it himself. Another bold move, right? But again, so ambition and reality, right? So I just did a segment on The Crazy 10 or Less, where I'm talking about warriors of virtue and how the brothers who knew nothing about the film industry, they had ambition and drive, but they weren't realistic. And I think because they didn't set themselves up for success, and they didn't partner with the right people, and they didn't take any of the lessons learned. So here is where ambition and reality clashes in this chapter. Well, in that story. So here I highlighted, let's see. The whole point of choosing to do the book myself was so I wouldn't need anybody. I thought I could avoid power trips, that I could be self-sufficient. In the end, my downfall was my impatience and miscommunication with the people that could help me. Now I know better. Maybe it's easy if you don't quit your day job cold turkey, like I did. For that, you need fortitude to plan your careful escape like a prison break. It certainly helps to save your money, write a business plan, and take small steps toward your goals each day. Then, at the right time, you should definitely go all in. And when given the opportunity, communicate. If people don't know your struggles, how can they help or at least sympathize? Right? So here are the several lessons that he learned. Because he not only took the book, and I wonder if this was in this chapter. He not only he said, I'm going to do it myself. He decided to go and he partnered with another person who was going to do a raffle, and they got this place. She had this place, and so he decided, hey, he convinced her to go all in. He took on the burden of getting a liquor license, which he had no clue, no experience prior to doing. He was building everything. He did the flyers. He was doing everything on his own, but he didn't communicate. The only time he communicated with his now partner was when he convinced her to let him partner with her to do the event. Again, this goes back to not being guided. It goes back to pride. And these are lessons learned. Sometimes you're not an island to your own. And if you're going to work with others, you have to be able to communicate. And also you have to be able to give in order to get. You just can't take. So I thought that was a great lesson. You should read that story. Let's see. So we're in live to work, don't work to live. I love that. So here's an opportunity where he was being independent, wanting to do certain things, but couldn't afford. And so his father challenged him to quit smoking, because when he realized how much money he was spending on smoking, what that would cost, where he could reinvest in himself. So quitting smoking happened serendipitously. My father challenged me one day. I was complaining about the cost of book manufacturing, and he pointed out the cost of cigarettes. He didn't believe I could quit. He said, I'll give you $1,000 if you quit for good. You see, he's been a smoker of 3 packs per day since he was 14 years old. To this day, he never quit. It may be a generational thing, but he can never quit. It took about 2 weeks for him to quit, but it was significant because it put things in perspective, right? So think how many times you said, well, I don't have the money for this. But then you look at what you do have the money for. cigarettes. What is it doing for you other than harming your body? All of the streaming channels, right? So we had 4 cable boxes in my house, and I was paying over $200 a month for my cable. I eliminated all that, and I went straight to just having internet service, and 2 boxes instead of 4 boxes. And instead of the cable, I just took the basic package, no other channels, and I reduced that bill by $100. So I think you really have to take a hard look at your goals versus your reality, and then think about the sacrifices you need to make in order to make those goals a reality. So I thought that was a good. Then he talks about routines. So he provides a daily chart for himself, right? So 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. exercise, bathe, and eat. 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. work from the checklist. So he creates a checklist for himself. 4 p.m. to 5:30 dinner. So it's either you're cooking it and eating it, because that's an hour and a half of eating dinner. That's a long meal. And then 5:30 to 10 p.m. continue working. If out networking, aim to be back by 10 p.m. 10 to 11, review your day and plan your next day's checklist. Anticipate how long each task will take you. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. sleep. Sometimes you work later. Anything between 6 to 8 hours of sleep is manageable. Weekends, a relaxed list for personal projects, and make sure you schedule fun. Great example of having a foundation towards a successful future. Routines, I always say routines are critical. You have to have routines. You have to have a system. You have to have a purpose. And I think this example is great. Again, you have to figure out what works for you, but have something in place that's going to keep you focused, keep you on track, and consistent. Consistency is key. So here on page 56, balance is the key. Everything in moderation. Things that are bad for your health or bad for your career should be eliminated, understandably. Take everything in stride, though. Don't torture yourself over being perfect. What you deprive yourself today will come to haunt you tomorrow. Be cautious, but have fun. Use weekends to recharge. Make sure you socialize, not just for business. Smile as much as you can. Right there. That's just a perfect statement, and it's key, because I can tell you, I've been working my entire career, and now I'm a brokepreneur. I've been working for myself since December 6th, and I've been grinding 7 days a week, and there was no time for fun. And I hit burnout, and I had a migraine. I was like allergic to my office, and I didn't. While I had every day planned out and scheduled, there was no plan for fun. There was no plan to relax and spend time with the loved ones, right? So this was a great awakening for me to look in the mirror and say, yo, Sam, you're not having fun. Why? And it's because of choices I make. So here in chapter 5, branding and marketing, I highlighted every success story starts with a great product. As a freelancer, your product is you. Your brand stands for your integrity. As a professional artist, you're going to be known for your habits. Keyword, habits. Your reliability, your timeliness, your attention to detail, your bedside manner when dealing with your client's needs. These are all part of your image. Your image should be consistent, yet your portfolio should be diverse. This is that personal perspective, right? How many times do you see an artist take on a client and then moan about the client, walk away from the project because they don't understand? They didn't have an objective. They didn't understand. Number one, they weren't clear on with themselves on what they were capable of doing. What are my limitations? What am I capable of doing? What medium am I going to target in this freelance world? He talks about diversity. You can be a one-trick pony, or you can have multiple sets of skills. Each will determine pay scale and longevity, right? So, but the key to any of this, and he says it in his book, is really understanding your goal, having a business strategy for yourself, knowing what your output is going to look like, and not just taking a project because you need a project and then not being able to deliver on it because you felt that the customer was too demanding. Communication is key. Understanding your limitations is key, and really honing in on that medium that you want to go after and just perfecting your style to have a successful career. So I highlighted this. Clients also buy into an artist and not simply their art. This is exactly what you hear me saying on the podcast multiple times. It's you. Your personality, your charm, your wit, your humor, your likability is what's going to bring the customers back. Because if they like you, they want to see you successful, and they'll return to you. You have to deliver on the work, because the quality of the work speaks for your integrity, right? Because I might like you, but if you're giving me half-ass work, I'll keep in touch, but I'm not going to hire you again. And better yet, I won't even refer you. So likability is key to referrals and building business. So really, and in order to be likable, you have to learn how to communicate. So we're still in branding and marketing. And again, in this, there's a lot of great information on how to type a great SEO, search engine optimization for your websites, and how to drive traffic. I mean, and where to go to network and gain clients. There's a lot of great stuff. What I highlighted was things that I felt were relevant and really important. It's important to note that a huge part of your brand is identifying for yourself the type of client that you are looking for. The key is to have clarity on the sort of artist you want to be and the type of patrons you want to attract. Exactly what I meant by that first rant that I just went on. Really understanding who your market is, who you are, what you're willing to do before you even go into it, because you can crash and burn on that first assignment, and you get one bad review on your first go at it. It's going to hurt you for a long time to try to change that around. So here, one day in Las Vegas, I was watching one of my favorite films, Collateral, and I got the inspiration to adapt my character into a film with actors. To do this, I had to gather the troops. I needed a cast. I needed money to shoot it. I secured a lead actor in Stephen Brody, whom I knew as a client. He had been in a film with Johnny Depp in several B movies. I also secured the current Miss Nevada, Amanda Gibson, in a supporting role. Ryan, the writer, happened to have a production company with a partner, Josh Jones, and they helped me set up a fundraiser on Indiegogo. Fundraising required a lot of time and effort. All the funds we raised were from direct engagement with family, friends, and former clients. We didn't meet our financial goal, but Indiegogo let us cash out whatever we raised in contrast to the other ones. Right? So I highlighted that. I highlighted it not because of the film project. It was because of the work, the hustle, the tenacity. Had he not established rapport and relationships because of the work, the quality of his output, the work, this would have been a different story. But because he built these relationships, these people jumped on to support his vision for his film. Again, it's that network. It's the community, but it goes back to your integrity. It's key. Can I trust you? Do I like you? Can I work with you? Those are key questions, but that all goes back to you. So when you're not getting that return on your investment, you got to look at you, not anyone else. How much have you invested? How much have you sacrificed? What do those relationships look like? Here's another page 73. Overall, just be authentic and provide valuable content. Just that one line I highlighted. That in itself, anyone reading that should understand what that means. Just be authentic and provide valuable content. When I was in the workforce and I managed large teams, one of the biggest things, the messages I would send to my team was, be you. So, organizations have these branding, messaging, and these ways of coaching that they want everyone to speak the same language and say the same keywords, whether they're trying to drive sales or build a culture of results-focused teams. My message at the end of every training was, here is your roadmap. I want you to use the tools in the way that works best for you. I want your voice to shine. I want you to shine. You're not going to say it the way I say it. You're not going to deliver it the way I deliver it. As long as you get from A to Z, using the fundamentals to achieve the result, it doesn't matter if you missed something here or there, but it's about you connecting. And it's about you being authentic. People have to see that in you. Because you are your brand. And I agree with 100% in his message. So we go into freelancing. And again, there's a lot of great advice. Where to go. How to navigate. Contracts. Invoicing. Communication. But there are certain things that I just highlighted. So, and when I read it, it reminds me why I highlighted it. So bear with me. Make sure, first of all, that you take time to upload only your best and most relevant pieces into your online portfolio. Organize and label each folder. Make sure the images are high resolution, but the file size are under 10 megabytes so that they download quickly. Your profile biography should be well written without any grammatical errors. Name your specialties and emphasize your priority in satisfying clients. Note that you provide work in a timely manner. After all, working online is all about selling. So it's freelancing online. I think this was this right here sets the tone for where you're going, where he's going with his message in here. But those are all key components. There are a lot of really talented artists out there that I know that should be a lot more successful than they are. But a lot of these steps are missing. The extra work is missing. The hustle's missing. So they'll take gigs here and there, but there's not that extra hustle to really make it a sustainable income where you're not really worried about that next work. But again, it goes back to your purpose. So here in freelancing, page 82 and 83. So 82, it says trends change. It's important to observe trends and pivot your skill set, especially when you are hungry for work. So here is a great example of that. And you can see the trends that are changing all the time. If you're in comic books, you can see it. If you're in animation, you can see it. And it's understanding, it's adapting to that environment. An example of that is in business. The reason why I've been successful in business is it didn't really matter the environment that I was assigned to, because I would eventually adapt to it. I would assess it. I would do a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I identify where my focus should be based on that analysis. And then I'd adapt to the audience to build trust, to get them to be able to buy into my messaging, right? So it's pivoting, understanding, because no two things are the same. So here's a pitch that he had. I call it a pitch, right? And it's one of those things where online freelancing where he's bidding for a project. So it says, "Hi, I'm perfect for your project as this is my specialty." Hi, I am perfect for your project as this is my... Right there, it catches my attention as a potential client. I'm like, what makes you perfect? Right? You can see similar work attached. Boom, second step. I'm providing you with that so you don't have to go around and rummaging through and trying to navigate the space to try to find relevance, right? I am available to start as soon as possible and complete within a few business days. Huge. Right there, you're saying, look no further on the man you need. Just to show, here's work similar to what you're looking for. Better yet, I can get this done quick. Please choose me to begin today. Thank you. With a smiley face. Clear, concise, to the point. For me, if the examples provided along with this pitch were in line, I'm sold. So it's clear that your messaging, it's critical that your messaging is clear. I thought that was pretty powerful. So I'm on page 95. And this is Freelancing Online. Alternately, when recurring clients come to you with a quick project, you should always take it and complete it as fast as possible. They will never forget how you made yourself available to them each time they come to you. And they will come back to you for life. Always find a way to manage your time to complete projects for recurring clients. The reason why that's important is because they came to you for a reason. You delivered before. And they might, the timeline might be a lot more aggressive. But that whenever you deliver on that, you've not only secured that relationship, but you're also securing future work because they're going to talk. Anywhere that anyone has a great experience, they talk about it. That's just a fact. Reason why Disney's so popular is because everyone who's gone there raved about it. They raved about the experience. They raved about the customer service. They complain about the pricing, but they go back. They're willing to pay for the experience. And your work is part of that experience. And your communication is the icing on the cake. So let's see, 106. So why did I highlight this? I got to see. Never outsource to a friend. Oh yes, this is why I highlighted this. This is where it gets funky. Working with friends, especially when money's involved, because if you're not on the same page and you don't have the same, I guess, level of self-respect. Because this is what I take from this. It's the self-respect. And it is also credibility. You can wind up burning bridges. And because he chose to help out a friend who was a graphic design student, thought he was ready to take on some work. And it was being paid it was $75. The budget was $75 per hour. His friend was procrastinating and not delivering on the expectation. And because of that, he lost out on the job, but then still had to pay his friend. So I think, whenever your name is on anything, you need to be very mindful who you surround yourself with and who you think your friends are. Business is business. I mean, learn from MC Hammer and what he's done with his friends and family. And he went broke. So really, really navigate cautiously. And I highlighted this because this is on page 112 and 113. He provides an example of a contract and how he breaks it down in portions and time frames and page rates and cover rates. And I think I'm not going to go over those details, but I think you should read that section if you're new to that. Dealing with clients. Why did I check that? I don't know. So I'm just going to see. In business, you only have one opportunity to close a deal, and it's in the first meeting. The client may physically give you a deposit at a later date, but their decision to hire you is made upon seeing you or interacting with you for the first time. You have to look and act presentable, but not intimidating. Be polite, speak eloquently, and meet in a professional setting. So this is cool. I like this because I think about dressing as tactical. In business, if I was going into a meeting, which I knew that it was going to be, the odds were, the subject matter was intense, the odds were stacked against me, but I needed to deliver that message and make sure that I walked away with the outcome I had in mind. What I wore was in line with how I want my message. So if I remember going into a really, it was about an individual that I felt was toxic for the environment, and that needed to be separated. And I remember people were intimidated with making that decision at high levels. And I remember I wore all black, a black suit with a black shirt with a black tie. And I went in and I had this mentality, and I stood in silence as everybody's pled their case in opposition of my thought process. And then it was my turn. And I presented it as if I was a litigator in a court case. When I was done, everyone signed off and agreed that the right decision was to separate. And it was because the person was threatening others, the person was abusive, whatever. But again, it's the setting called for it. If I was going on an interview, I wore blues, right? Because blue is soothing, right? It's calming. So I'd have like a navy blue suit with a sky blue shirt and a tie, or a white shirt with a blue tie. But I wore blues because it created a relaxing atmosphere. So know your audience. You know, I remember I made a mistake. I went to an organization. They said, please dress casual. You don't need to wear a suit. And I chose not to, and I wore a suit. Big mistake. Because I was the odd man out. So listening is key. Knowing your audience is also key to having a successful outcome on whatever it is that you're going to. So here we're dealing with clients on 137. One thing I observed when working on site, you're no longer an artist. As soon as you are drawing or painting under the watchful eye of an employer, you're on their payroll. They don't care about your artistic interpretation, your better judgment. They just need you to do something that they can't or don't want to spend time to do. It's very sad and painful to realize that in the eyes of the employer, you are a mere laborer. Your education means nothing. You can't show you're smart. You simply have to put your head down and toil while they do their utmost to squeeze every ounce of sweat out of you, at least when you work online or from home. You're farther away from the power trips and violent whims of an on-site employer lacking people skills. Huge. And you have to recognize that. So you can't have tantrums, and go off and because remember, they're paying your bills. So you have to play nice. So here's another one. I think I just did the whole page, and it says referrals require extra responsibility. Since a friend or client spoke highly of you, you have to make a good impression to both parties. Here's an email reply from a recent referral. So here was a reply that he had for a referral. Hi, Mr. or Mrs. C. Thank you for your referral. M. And hello, Mrs. C. I'm a fine artist and graphic novelist with a background in animation and experience as a film director. I've designed art for toy lines and have illustrated comics. I would love to be part of your whatever venture. Here are some designs attached in a recent comic ad. I've also designed sculptures, as you can see, attached as well. I'm available to chat in the coming weeks before your early June pitch, so please email me or call me through the info below. Thank you, Christian. Perfect. Right? So he's basically saying, I have exactly what you're looking for. He reinforces the fact that there's a pitch going to be made and there's a timeline to it. And he opens the lines of communication. He also provided material, reference material for the client. All key to establishing business relations. So creating and selling fine art. Again, a lot of good tips in this book. You have to read to it. I only highlighted things that I felt that I wanted to talk about today. Client portrait painting commissions are also straightforward. I get photo reference and do the rest. There's often a deadline with portraits as they plan to present someone with it as a gift by a certain date. When that's the case, I have to plan the painting process carefully and consider the paint drying time. When the deadline is tight, the cost increases. Essentially, I tell them I have to drop all other projects and make theirs a priority. This is not a problem, of course, but they have to understand that from the start. From the start, right? So clearly communicating is key in this book, because if you don't, you could miss out. Number one, you could put extra stress on you to meet a timeline, and not benefit from it financially. So you want to make sure that you have those candid conversations in the beginning before you assume the project, and start it, because you can't go back and say I need more money because this is a lot more complicated than I thought. It's not going to happen. It's bad look on you. So again, creating and selling fine art. Page 166. To fund your art, you can apply for artist grants and fellowships. The terms are interchangeable, and they are offered by governments or private institutions. Fellowships in the U.S. are more money than Canadian grants, which I've applied for. Grants can be from $5,000 and up, while fellowships are like winning the Pulitzer or Nobel Prize and come with $50,000 or more sometimes. They can fund an artist's whole year of production, and they are based on the worth of the value of the artistic investigation. This is cool if you're looking for funding. You have a good business plan, you have a great portfolio, and you have purpose. You can go out and look. So he provides an example of the potential gains from it. So going in business for yourself, chapter 8. Let's see. What do I have here? I went to chapter 9. So going to business for yourself. A lot of this, I think you should read through. It talks about, Google ads and promotions and, questions you need to ask yourself. But I went straight to chapter 9. Continuous equals success. So writing the first business plan was a harsh reality. Immediately, I faced my failings. It helped me figure out a way to adapt and persevere. Every couple of years now, I write a new business plan. Even if I don't have a business registered, I write one for my art career. Writing a business plan is a must for any self-employed person, and you have to do it often because trends change, and so do the markets. Each community within each city has their strengths, and artists must adapt to cater to that market's taste while serving clients happily, day to day. But that was important to understand that if you're going into business for yourself, if you're going to get registered as a business, you really need a business plan. I remember when I was registering for my business and I walked into the bank to open an account, they asked my business plan. I was like, oh yeah, that. So I missed a step, so I had to go out and write one. So then, so Apollo's prisoner, I didn't highlight anything. I just love this entire chapter because you get an insight into Christine Alois. And you understand why, number one, why he became an artist, because it was intentional on his father's part. You get an insight into his father's psyche and the sacrifices that he made, and the hardships that he had to endure at the hands of his father. And because he was deprived of becoming an artist by his father, and he was abused by his father, Christian's dad left home at the age of 14, I believe it is, or 16. He was a teenager, left home, ran away, and he never became an artist. but he vowed internally that when he had a child, that child would he would live through his child, and his child would become an artist. And you learn you know the reason why I thought this one was the most important for me is because I didn't understand as a kid what my mom went through, because she did not share that with me. My older brother knew everything. I didn't know until after my mom passed, and it was probably maybe 10 years after her passing that my family, my brothers and sisters, decided to share, the things that she had to endure. And, my mom never graduated high school. She has a 9th grade education. She was abused and she was deprived. And I knew I was the first kid to get a high school diploma of her kids. So when I read this, I really related to it, and it has so much heart, and it really helps to understand Christians' mindset. And this was that ice cream that you get with the icing on the cake. All right, it's that extra oomph. You have to read this. I enjoyed this book. I really did. And I'm sorry the pages are coming out. For so many reasons. While it provides a lot of tactical advice and guidance, it also shows what happens when we steer left instead of right. And it also puts into perspective those hidden things that form who we become as in society. Those things that are subliminal, those experiences that are generational, the culture that's around us, because it isn't overt, it's covert. It's subtly influencing you and your journey. And we're shaped by those silent experiences that no one talks about, that we're too embarrassed to talk about, that we're too ignorant to acknowledge, because we've grown accustomed. It's become a way of life. Hence why this title, It's a Living, is so powerful. Because for an entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur, someone who wants to take their life into their own hands and build something, this is a great guide for you. But also, if you really sit down, and you'll see yourself in this, and you'll reflect. It's like, yeah, I made that bad choice. Damn, I should have gone right. We're influenced by so much, but we pretend to not see it. We talk about waking up, or the woke society. I think being awake is really understanding who you are, your purpose in life, your intentions, and really making those sacrifices to achieve those goals. You're a byproduct of the decisions you make. And you have to live with it, which is why it's a living. Great job, Christian. I love this book. I had fun reading it. Thank you so much. This was another episode of What's in the Box. If you have a book that you want to send my way, just contact me at contact@catchthecraze.com. DM me on any of the social media. Hit me up. I'll tell you where to send it. Thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up. Please refer it to a friend. Subscribe if you have not. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
What's in the box?